on, nFo fans? This is your host, Alex Lexus and Nelson Rios, with our joint podcast for nMo and Fighting Game League. Today we have staff member of nMo, Nupe, cracking jokes and sticking that motorcycle picture, trying to heckle me a little bit. It's all good. It's all good. So we're coming at you with our November 2nd podcast. And just as a side note, Nelson and I have been suffering harsh with the effects of Hurricane Sandy. Me as a driver in New Jersey, really pain at the pump. So keep us in your prayers. And those in Staten Island who are really devastated by the storm, please keep them in your prayers, or whoever you worship or pray to. So I just wanted to put that out there. Now, jumping into our topics, it's despite our issues with the natural disaster that occurred, a couple of things have been moving. Like, for instance, Zone of Enders HD was released. Nelson luckily got it before me, and backtracking, we had a series of videos. Nelson and possibly a new member to the nFo broadcast was doing a stream, did an excellent job with that. Then I picked up Zone of Enders after trading in some things, and it pretty much paid for a $40 demo. But I mean, Nelson will tell you that's all I've been playing, that demo, just trying to master and understand the mechanics.
Yep.
But with that being released, before we touch on Zone of Enders, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance will be out February of next year, and I believe that will be the definitive action game of 2013. Bottom line, Devil May Cry reboot. They really needed, and Nelson is going to jump in on this when I'm done, Dante's design is pretty much going to kill that game, because Metal Gear Rising is giving the fans what they want to a degree. Some of the guys who are stuck on Snake or in the tactical stuff, they're having issues adjusting to a new type of game, a spin-off game. They have to understand it's completely different. But the review on this demo, I'm going to let Nelson start, and then we'll just go around the table. Nelson, what are your thoughts on this demo, and what are your predictions for when the game gets released next year?
Well, I gotta say, for me, buying Zone of the Enders HD collection, to have this demo in there was well worth it. This is basically a nostalgia feel that we had about, I'd say, 9 or 10 years ago with Metal Gear Solid 2 demo being released on Zone of the Enders 1. So it actually brought back like a good nostalgia feel. But besides the point, the demo is only about literally 5 minutes long, like tops. But within those 5 minutes,
that's if you're doing really like crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Like if you got your timing down.
Yeah. The demo you can go as quickly as 5 minutes, but within those 5 minutes, or I would say, I'll give it 20 minutes. I'll give it that. We'll say within 20 minutes of the game, you're blown away. Graphically, the sound is on point. The fighting mechanics, that how I learned earlier that I gave Alex the insight on, you're able to do similar Devil May Cry / Star Wars type of moves and shit incorporated into the game.
Bayonetta too.
And the blade mode feature is by far one of the best mechanics I've ever seen in any game like today, because you get to
Yeah, I'm sorry, Nelson. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying, like, that's like the most precise 360 cutting tool in any game I've ever seen. Like, oh man, you could cut, like, literally, you could cut trees, you could cut street lights, cars, you could cut like the big gecko mechs with the legs that sound like cows. That game, so good.
And let me tell you, the one thing that in Platinum Games, those of you who know their reputation for making games like Bayonetta, God Hand, and a couple other titles, they don't put out crap. You know what I mean? And considering remnants of that team was part of the old Devil May Cry 1 team, and Bayonetta, and now this, I mean, wow. You see a lot of Bayonetta in it, but it's its own animal. And the way that Konami initially had the Zendatsu, or cut and take and all that, it's interesting how Platinum Games preserved what Konami's intent for Metal Gear Solid Rising, what the game was originally supposed to be, and made it work. Because when you look at the video called The Truth Behind Rising, it was a documentary style video that's about 25 minutes long, and Kojima was talking about their issues with making the game work the way that they wanted to, and Platinum Games was the studio that Kojima had in mind to co-develop the game with. Now, like Nelson was saying, the most fun aspect of the game is the blade mode, where you're running around, like in the VR mission, when you're playing the tutorial, you can go and do some crazy stuff. And I'm sure, Nelson, at some point in the game, when the full game comes out, there'll be achievements for how many pieces you can cut an object into.
Yeah.
Like, I think I got up to 217 pieces off of a box, that you're just sitting there literally slowing down time or stopping time and breaking everything up. It's so much fun. It's amazing. Excellent job with that. And that's going to, you'll never play the game the same way twice. That's pretty much the draw that I think is going to really make this game a lot of fun. You know, the fact that it's so much like Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, and, you know, seeing that there's some videos and trailers showing Raiden's abilities. You don't have them in the demo, but it's just to show you what the game feels like. And I was blown away. Normally, Metal Gear games don't run at 60 frames, except for, it was Metal Gear Solid 2. I think Snake Eater was the only one that dropped to 30 frames.
Yeah.
But the minute you start looking at the game, it's beautiful. Like, wow, detailed up the wazoo, beautiful stuff, you know? But without going on a tangent, I would say the presentation, the gameplay, the music. I'm stuck on stupid with that boss music when you're fighting the Blade Wolf boss. And I downloaded the MP3, and Nelson, after the podcast, I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
Man, when they got... It feels like Devil May Cry, right? Remember the battle music?
Yeah, it does.
When you're fighting with Dante? Yeah, it's like a RoboCop-esque, like with the digital sound from the first RoboCop movie, with like that dude rocking off in the background. I'm like, that's going to be some good stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, the controls are pretty simple. You can get into it. It's a pick-up-and-play game. I think Konami and Platinum Games have a winner on their hands. So, I mean, any thoughts before I get into the suggestions for the future Metal Gear games, Nelson?
I'm just saying, if you guys have not picked up the Zone of the Enders HD collection to play this demo, even though, as what Alex said, it was a $40 demo for him, because he has yet to touch Zone of the Enders to this point.
Actually, I did today. I finally did today. I had to give myself a break, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it seemed like you was enjoying that game a little bit too much, yo. You sitting there learning how to parry the fucking the Blade Wolf and fucking trying to do all that stealth shit to save the innocent bystander from those two cybernetic people, and Dang, yo.
But that blew me away. That's gonna be something. That game is the game to watch for next year. And switching gears slightly, my suggestion for the future of Metal Gear games comes from Resident Evil 6. Now, Resident Evil 6, remember how I had to swallow Crow and saying how, the game's not going to sell well because I was still pissed off at Capcom? Resident Evil 6 got the multiplayer aspect down. I was very happy with how you can do the co-op and everything. I would like to see Metal Gear with that. I mean, if, let's say, this technology with how Resident Evil 6, with two players, working cooperatively to achieve an objective, Metal Gear Solid 2, when you had Snake and Raiden in the same game, that should have been something that they could have visited at some point. So Nelson and Nupe, I know you see where I'm going with this. That would have been excellent to play Raiden and Snake player 1, player 2, having an engine where, they both can run off of it. But, I mean, I think that would have been cool. Hell, remake Metal Gear Solid 2 and use that format. So Nupe, I was gonna give you some time, and then Nelson. I mean, considering Nupe, you and I and Shinwar have been really getting into Resident Evil 6. I mean, do you see that format being influencing other games and other franchises?
Absolutely. That's one of the big selling points of any game to me is that co-op play. Knowing that I can get online and play on different difficulty levels with my friends. I mean, a lot of games do it, like Gears, Borderlands. For them to add it in the Metal Gear, I think that'd be great. But honestly, I think because it's they're going in a new direction with this Metal Gear, as most game companies do, they're probably holding back because they know they're going to do another one. So they're like, well, that's something new we can give you in the next one. Because, you know, if you pack your first product with everything, it's hard to top it. So they probably didn't want to outdo it or overdo it. That's what I think. You know, kind of hold back those extras. You know how they do.
True. All right, Nelson, what are your thoughts on having a Metal Gear game with mechanics, like co-op mechanics like Resident Evil 6?
Well, that would definitely be a new twist. I mean, they already have a co-op based game, which is basically a Peace Walker. If you have the HD collection of Metal Gear Solid, and they have a co-op thing where you can have at least up to 4 players at a time. But with the exact same co-op mechanics as Resident Evil 6, that would change the aspect of Metal Gear entirely. Like, I would be blown away if they, let's say for an example, as you said, Metal Gear Solid 2 was to be remade, and you put it to the point where Raiden's always with you instead of having his own like storyline and stuff like that. That will break the game. Like, to be entirely honest with you, because Raiden, I mean, come on, we all gotta admit it. He was a pussy in Metal Gear Solid 2. He was a little bitch, you know. So not many people will want to play with Raiden. They'd rather play with someone like Olga, who played as the ninja, or play as like Solidus Snake or some shit like that. But that would definitely be something. Oh, did you guys hear about not to go all off topic, but did you hear that Cliff Bleszinski, the guy from Epic Games, he said that he wanted to be on the next leading project for the next Resident Evil game?
And that was our next topic. That's it. Leading into it. It's funny, the precognition, man. Okay, nFo fans, what Cliffy B. And we know Tough Nerd Toys has beef with the Gears of War developers for reasons. Yeah, you know, Nupe, there's some videos he put up there that got taken down. It's a long story, but...
Well, we need to talk about that when this is over.
Yeah, Cliffy B knows who he is. It was just a whole thing where... Yeah. But Resident Evil 6... To me, and when Nelson and I did that first demo play where we did the dual stream, remember, Nelson, in the first 5 minutes when we were playing Chris's mission, how I said this feels like Gears of War?
Yeah.
But it kind of felt a little different?
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, Epic Games and their representative, Cliff Bleszinski, made an offer to Capcom to co-produce or co-create a future Resident Evil game. I only see good things coming out of this because I like the controls for Resident Evil 6, but remember when we were first playing, it felt kind of like, oh man, there's a learning curve to it. But Gears of War, you can pick it up and just start playing. So if there was some way that they can get some Gears of War aspect with how to easily run up and get cover and switch your weapons and things of that nature, simplify the HUD a little bit, I think that Resident Evil with Gears of War mechanic DNA, another winner. And I'm happy to see that the right people are gonna try to put the right ingredients to create A-class titles. You know what I mean? Look at like what Konami did with Mercury Steam, which was a virtually unknown company that created Lords of Shadow, and that came out to be like an epic game in itself. Even though it's only getting 3 games in its series, it's an A-class title. You know what I mean? So they're doing the right thing by creating partnerships and networking, just like NMO and Fighting Game League, we're partnering to make something better. So they're doing a good thing with this. So, Nupe, what are your thoughts on Epic and Capcom, working on something together if they are to come to a deal for a future Resident Evil game?
First of all, I love Metal Gear to death. Metal Gear is the reason I bought an Xbox 360 over a PS3. As far as the partnership and him working on the next Resident Evil, I see a lot of good things coming from that. But I think the biggest challenge will be making sure that Resident Evil keeps its identity. I don't want to play another game, because now and then also you got to look at it holistically. Resident Evil and Gears of War are technically competition. They're both third-person action-adventure games. I don't even consider Resident Evil a horror game anymore. They're action-adventure games. So now you kind of like, as Cliffy B, I think you don't want to step on your own toes, and you got to be careful and make sure you keep those Resident Evil elements within the game, because I don't want to play Resident Evil and then be like, dang, man, I feel like I'm playing Gears. So I think that's going to be the challenge. But as far as maybe tightening up some of the controls, oh gosh, and please help with the camera. I didn't have too many camera issues with this last Resident Evil. Not too many. Just a couple times.
Yeah.
But if you're going to get someone to come help you, I think Cliffy B is one of the best. He's on fire right now as far as releases. So, yeah.
Okay. So, excellent points, Nupe. This is why we need you on the show, because I like how you break stuff down. All right, Nelson, what are your thoughts to follow up on what Nupe was discussing?
Well, with this whole Cliff Blazinski, want to partner up with Capcom to make the next Resident Evil franchise, I don't mind it because, like I said, he will bring some good ideas to the table, and of course Capcom will try to work with him, but not full creative control as what Cliff Blazinski might want, because it sounds like Cliff Blazinski just wants to make his own Resident Evil game and the idea of what he thinks is good. Hopefully that's not the case, but they could change a lot of aspects if they're trying to go based off of how they made the Resident Evil 6 game. They need to fix the camera angle because it's not as good. They need to definitely fix that. They need to fix some of the wonky, clunky control system that the game does have, because they do have a problem with the counter system. They do have a problem when things not popping up on the screen when they're supposed to. So it makes you feel like, oh, wait, hold on. I could counter this enemy, but I just did it to the exact same palette character of this zombie, and he's just jumping on me for no fucking reason. And then also there's a lot of glitches in the game. There's some clipping issue, there's some sound issues and stuff like that, but that's just normal stuff. But as of the basic general game, if they do go at it and they was like, yo, let's make a game together, I just hope it's not 2 Gears of War, where you have all of a sudden Marcus and Dom coming into the fucking Resident Evil franchise and they're meeting up somehow and all this other random shit. I don't want none of that. I don't want no Lost Planet type bullshit.
We don't want the Locust and the Locust getting infected with the T virus.
Yeah, see, that would be on some
General Ram 2 or something, or Scourge coming back.
Right, we don't need none of that,
Okay. Well,
it's funny that
well, hey, you never know. You never know. There was also, before going into the next topic, there was a rumor or talks about a Ninja Gaiden and Metal Gear crossover with Raiden and Hayabusa. That would have been interesting, but I will save that for another. Yeah, Itataki-san, when he was with Tecmo, it was ideas being thrown around, but, considering he's no longer with the company, and, I mean, they can do a lot of stuff with a crossover. I mean, let's say demons come into the Metal Gear world or something, infect a Metal Gear or demonize Metal Gear type thing, and one ninja can't take it out alone and they have to combine forces, say, hey, you know what, I'll do this and you do that, and they can do a lot with it. Now that Raiden's such a souped up cyborg and Hayabusa is the super ninja of ninjas, I mean, they can do some crazy stuff with it. Who knows? Who knows? But we shall see. All right, now switching gears. HD releases, okay? Now, we've been flooded with HD releases from Metal Gear Solid HD Collection, Devil May Cry HD Collection, now Zone of the Enders, Knights. You have Sonic Adventure 2 re-release in HD. Now, I'm glad that they're doing this, but there's certain franchises of games that really need this HD update. You know, I wonder what's holding them. Like, for me, I'd like to see an Onimusha trilogy. I don't know about Dawn of Dreams because that doesn't really fit into the original Onimusha arc for me. Even though I played it and I like the new main characters, okay, but an Onimusha HD collection needs to come out. You know what I mean? And, you know, I was just going to go around the table to see, like, what HD collection would you like to see next? Because if we're getting them, hell, do the ones that we want. Like, hell, bring out, like, Power Stone or something. You know, do something where, you know, it's like they're just releasing them, and I don't know if they're doing any polls, suggestions, or anything like that. I mean, Capcom is known for not listening to fans too much. It's like they'll listen to you, then you get hope, and then they don't listen to you, and they fuck it up. So it's kind of like... They like to play ping pong with you, but I would like to see an Onimusha HD remastered, you know... I don't know. But Nelson, I'll give you the floor first and then Nupe. What would you like to see? You know, I mean, since you're getting flooded with them.
Wow, that's a real tough one because there's a lot of games that I would like to see to have a HD re-release. I mean, we are having the Budokai HD collection coming out in the next couple of days, so that's already like out the water. But for me, it would have to be like old RPG games that came out for like the PlayStation 1 for me to get it like a re-release, like how everyone was so hyped on the whole Final Fantasy VII tech demo thing where they wanted that game to be remade. My opinion, I don't think that should get remade into HD. I prefer like either Final Fantasy or Legend of Dragoon or Xenogears and stuff like that. Those are the type of remakes I want to see, but if we're talking Panzer Dragoon series, like either if it's Orta or the original Sega Saturn port, I would like to see all those good games come out for an HD port. But as of like, if we were talking about up to date now, like with fighters or shooters and stuff like that, I would have to say we would need to make like a game that has every fucking crossover, like, you know, X-Men Children of the Atom, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, like all the fighting games that's ever came out, even the shit ones like Capcom Fighting Jam or fucking SNK vs. Capcom or Bloody Roar or, as you said, Power Stone. You know, all those crazy ass games that we used to enjoy for the Dreamcast and the early PlayStation 2 era. That would be something, though. That would definitely be something.
So, Nupe, same question posed to you. What would you like to see remade, remastered for our current gen?
Well, I think I'm gonna stay on topic, but I'm gonna be like a different area of the topic. I think the issue with the HD remakes is that, or remakes, or re-releases, whatever you want to call it. One is that because of the way the industry is now, a lot of it is about profit. Are we going to make money off of this? You know, not so much.
Is true.
Our fans really want this, so let's do it. So it's like I don't even get my hopes up like I used to. Like I got my MVC2. That's what I was praying for the longest, and I got that. Now it's happy. Number two, the second issue is, and a lot of people don't know this, when it comes to re-releases, you know, back in the day, there's like 4, 5, 6 companies involved in one game. And some of those companies are greedy, and they may not have released anything since that game, maybe 20 years ago, but they still hold rights to maybe some of the characters, to maybe some of the art, or something like that. So some of these companies can't release. Like, I think it was the Street Fighter EX series on PS2, like how some of those characters you never see
Eureka,
Right, because that company still owns the rights to those characters. But when's the last time you've seen something from those companies? But they don't want to release the rights to the character. And that's weird to me. But, yeah, Power Stone definitely, and not as a PS3 exclusive. I want Capcom versus SNK 2, or a Part 3. That was my favorite crossover series. I really, really, really want to see that. I just got Jet Set Radio, so I'm actually doing very well. I can't really think of anything else off the top. I think they're doing pretty good for now, but I would like a more open forum from like the game companies. Like reach out to the community, you know, because I know they're bouncing these ideas off of each other. So I think they should reach out more. Put a poll on your website. You know what I mean? Put a poll, not just those freaking. I know you have quote unquote forums where you can write, but that's crap. Put like I want to see that, my voice is being heard. Show me a poll so I can also get a quick look at what everyone else is looking at and what they're thinking, besides having to read, 10,000 forums.
Okay, and Nupe, you brought up some couple points that I'm going to caveat on. Rights holders, and that was actually a topic I just typed into our script, that rights holders, like, Arika Games, holding the rights to Cracker Jack, Skullomania, the right. Persian
great
chick.
Characters.
I mean, yeah, great characters. When was the last time they put anything out? And then if you're not doing anything with the intellectual property, you don't have to sell it per se, but all right, give Capcom the license to go and re-release these games. And if they were the key developers, maybe Capcom should say, hey, we grant you a license, but whatever you make, we make a percentage of. You know what I mean? Because if people are asking for this stuff, why not give it to them? And this is what almost messed up Iron Man, and actually it screwed up Iron Man and Marvel vs. Capcom 1. That's why we got War Machine, because someone had the rights to Iron Man, and they couldn't use the Iron Man name, so then they had to remix it so that they can get away with using the sprites with minor adjustments and color swapping. You know what I mean? That kind of crazy stuff, it doesn't work. Originally, look at what happened with Strider. Strider, they don't own all the rights to Strider the character. But he didn't make it in the first Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which he was supposed to be in. And then they had to find ways and show that company that owns the rights to Strider that, hey, look, people really want him in the game. Let's work something out. With enough demand, Strider made it. That kind of stuff gums up the process and puts, it screws things over. Same thing with Capcom versus SNK 2. People don't know. And some people are probably going to put comments below and say, hey, you don't know what you're talking about. But SNK Playmore, we know they're in financial trouble, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure exactly where I pulled the source. I think it was on the Event Hubs on one of the forums. I have to go back and pull it up. But it's something to the effect that I think with Seth Killian still at the company, they couldn't reach a deal because I guess SNK wanted too much. So they're like, hey, fuck it. As much as I get up in Capcom's behind, I don't want to see them screwed over too, where, CVS 2, the license might have expired or whatever through SNK. Now SNK Playmore might be playing by a different set of rules. And like, hey, let's try to gouge and try to extort as much money as we can to stay afloat. I understand it, but if it's better to make some money than no money. If you're asking too much and then Capcom says no, guess what? It's not getting made. So if you work with them and say, hey, let's re-release these titles and possibly do Capcom versus SNK 3, why not work with something? Be a little reasonable, because you put out a good product, okay? You make some money, you please the fans, and then you breathe new life into it. The fighting game genre saw a surge in the last 2 years. And to be greedy and to be stupid like that, you're just screwing yourself. And then if SNK Playmore goes broke, who can they blame? Themselves, right? So
true.
I was just looking at the standpoint of these right holders need to really stop and think. Like, okay, we're in shit times right now in terms of economy and all this other stuff. Let's make something instead of nothing. I mean, if it's like a profit thing, let's say Capcom SNK 2, if that does get released, it's not going to be on a disc. How much are you going to pay on resources to print all those discs?
Yeah.
Nothing, because it'll be a digital download. If you do Capcom versus SNK 3, then you have to find some way to draw the people in. Like, my suggestion for that, if they do a Capcom versus SNK 3, let SNK do all the 2D handwork. And then let Capcom program the game similar to CVS2, give or take new grooves that popped up in newer games. You know what I'm saying? Keep the CVS or CAP SNK grooves, and then add 2 more grooves based off of newer games. I don't think that would be too hard. So, Nelson, what are your thoughts on that, and then Nupe?
Well, they just need to stop with the bullshit, just like you're saying. Like, they're holding too many characters, games, and everything to, like, these companies that are being greedy, acting like, oh, yeah, we have something, so we're going to try to clinch onto it as much as possible and not let it go. I mean, come on. Like, if we have a company such as, like, Capcom, and they want to use the rights to some characters like Strider Hiryu or Karen from the Street Fighter Alpha 3 series, which she's technically apart from a manga as well, that we can't get the rights of. I mean, it's kind of stupid because we're trying to make the game have more variety and have a lot more content within the game. And if these companies are withholding these characters that people want to see out of like a huge fan base, they should work something out. Like, as you said, they could give them like a certain percentage and they'll get money for having the character being put on the game. It's not like they're really losing out. I mean, I don't know what the hell is, like, their butt hurt, or they just need to, like I said before, clinch onto, like, their pride and joy, right, or whatnot, but
it's all about the profit.
I would definitely just like to see some characters or some games to get either, like, a re-release or just to be put out, just for the sake of, like, all right, people from the new generation has not experienced anything back from, like, the early 90s, and it would be great for them to get, like, re-put on to games that were actually good, you know, from back then of our time. Then we have all these doo-doo ass games that take, like, not even a day to beat now. So it's, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Nupe, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, similar to Nelson, man. But yeah, you're right. It's about that almighty dollar, and it's about people smelling themselves. Like, you know, it wouldn't make it. I'm not hard pressed to believe that with the Capcom SNK thing, Capcom probably was talking trash. Yeah, you know, we just released Street Fighter, Super Street Fighter, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, Ultimate MVC. You need something from us. We don't need anything from you. So you need to take this deal and sit down and shut up. You ain't making no money. I mean, they're probably talking trash.
You're right.
But at the same time, think about your fans, okay? Put your greedy 6-figure, 7-figure bank accounts to the side, your egos to the side, and think about the fans. And just freaking give us what we want. Every once in a while, give us what we want. And I think another issue that a lot of people don't talk about, because I try to look at things holistically, some people probably try to hold on to their characters and property and don't want them to be used because maybe they don't like where the company is, or maybe they have a personal issue. Oh, I don't want my character to be portrayed like this. That's not the intent I have for this character when I created them. So that's another issue, too. Some people just might not want their character to be out there in the way that some of these companies are, you know, basically pimping. Some of them are just pimping the characters now, just putting them in all kind of crazy stuff. So, for real, who knows, man?
Now, you see, the difficulty in working in collabo with other companies, it's like, for instance, Nitsuma-san from Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, they were explaining in an article how Marvel, in particular Doctor Strange, how they hand walk them with his movements and how he's supposed to talk. And I mean, they were like, this is crazy. Like, I don't think Doctor Strange will be in another fighting game. Because, they said it wasn't a pleasant experience. And not like, oh, F Marvel. No, it's just they were very particular on how they wanted Doctor Strange portrayed in that game, you know? So it's just sometimes you gotta be, and you know, and it's because Marvel has their movie plan out to 2015, 2016. So we know a Doctor Strange project is in the work. So that's kind of where that came from. So that's the thing when you're trying to collaborate with people, there has to be cooperation on certain levels. Street Fighter EX Plus Alpha series and all that. That's just a shame that you won't see them again. And the company probably tanked. And by the time they probably release or sell off the IP, our generation will probably be long gone and probably won't care for the game. You know what I mean? At least capitalize on the request for it now before it goes away.
Yeah.
Good example is like the Floyd Mayweather Pacquiao confrontation. I mean, when these guys do fight, guess what? No one's gonna care. So somebody has to give somewhere along the line. But anyway, shifting to our last set of topics, it's actually a topic that can branch off into many things. Now, leading this, many of you remember the original Teenage Ninja Turtles movie, the first RoboCop films, or the first two RoboCop films, and certain game types, and I put Knights into the Dreams for Sega Saturn versus Knight's Journey of Dreams for the Wii for a couple of reasons. Here's the thing. Now it's looking like companies, movie studios, video game studios, some of them are so desperate to make a dollar. What they try to do is they try to water down and streamline, mainstream certain titles, certain movie productions so that they can cater to kids. And even though you'll have a constant niche for that, like it works for Nintendo because whenever they put out a new console or their characters just appeal to kids or young teenagers. But good example, RoboCop 1 and 2, bloody-ass, gory-ass stuff that was not meant for kids. It was not meant for kids. However, kids were, oh man, RoboCop. And then when they see the first film, the uncensored one that's out on the Blu-ray or whatever, they're like, what the hell is this? So people are complaining, oh, blah, blah, blah. Orion Pictures, back in the day, was going bankrupt. So guess what they did? When RoboCop 3 came along, they decided, hey, let's make this for kids. And what they ended up doing was alienating the original culture or the people, the grassroots culture from the RoboCop 1 and 2 films in favor of this, little kid controlling Ed 209. And, like, really? Hey, chum. Like, what the? So when they do that, what happens is those kids that you're tailoring, like the video games and the movies for, they grow up and guess what? They stop paying attention to that intellectual property. Good example, like Nintendo, tailored for kids, and then the minute I grew up, I'm like, man, this is kind of corny. I don't want to play this no more. And then you completely ignore it, and then guess what? You lose fan base. But when you're trying to cater to newer kids or the new generation of kids, they may not be interested in that intellectual property. So guess what? You cut your nose to spite your face, and you lose everything. It's better to stay with the original culture. Like, for instance, look at Star Wars. Star Wars maintained its freaking following since before I was born all the way till now. You know what I mean? They stayed with the formula. So that's what they need to do with the gaming. Like, if it started off for teenagers and adults, stay with it. Because the older they get, you know what I mean, they can be in their 50s, 60s still enjoying that particular property. But if you cut it off for the kids, that's it. You know? I mean, look what happened with Orion Pictures. They ended up selling off the rights to RoboCop to Sony Pictures, and Sony Pictures is now doing the new RoboCop 2013, who ends up looking like Raiden from Metal Gear Rising. But that's a whole other topic. But you see where I'm going with this? Like, for instance, Knights into the Dreams for the Xbox Live Arcade and PSN. The first one, Knights had no voice. You know what I mean? The character is supposed to be genderless. Then all of a sudden, I'm watching the walkthrough since I no longer own a Wii. I'm watching the walkthrough, and now Knights has a voice, and it's the voice of a girl. I'm like, what the hell is this? I mean, what are you doing to hardcore stuff? So before I go on a rant, Nupe, I want you to respond, then Nelson. I mean, hopefully I laid down a good foundation for this particular topic, because I feel passionate about this stuff. Like, they're jacking things up, but yeah, go ahead.
You did. All right. First of all, I thought of a throwback download I would like. Street Fighter Alpha 3 with an online versus mode. Loved Alpha 3. Yeah, I almost threw up today. I was watching TV and I came across the new Ninja Turtle series that they're coming out with on TV. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? It looks so
Okay, guys, hold on 1 second.
horrible. It was horrible. Terrible.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, that the new Ninja Turtle series they have. I mean, I love Ninja Turtles to death. Like if they came out with something, I bought it. But I saw like a glimpse of the new TV show, and I'm like, really?
Which one? The
Really?
CG one?
Yeah. It's like,
oh yeah. Nickelodeon,
I was
right?
like, yeah, and like you said, just man, it goes back to what we said. It's about the money. It's about the money.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, if we make it cool for the kids and they'll buy it, we'll make a bunch of money. It's no longer about putting out a quality product and staying true to your product. It's about just changing with the times as quick as you can to get that quick buck, man. Like a lot of stuff that we were loyal to it's dying. It's dying. Like you said, like RoboCop. I watched it maybe about 6 months ago, the first one, and I was like, dang, I forgot how this movie really was. And then I started watching part 3 and I cut it off. Because I was like, what is this? Yeah. And yeah, it's crazy, man. And I, like you say, I don't understand why would you take something that's created so beautifully and so wonderful and commercialize it and water it down to the point to where it means nothing. It means nothing, man. I can't stand it. But I mean, it's the money.
Yeah, and you know, the funny thing, it's now, when you're trying to appeal to the new generation, I hate to say it, but some of you young gamers, it's part of the ADD society. They don't stick with things for too long. So you need to get it quick and move on. So what the companies tend to do, they are trying to adapt to this. I mean, they're trying to survive, I get it, but then you're destroying fully established game franchises and movie franchises. And it's just like, wow, really? Like, what are you doing? You know, but I wanted to give Nelson some time with this topic.
Ooh, how can I put this? There's just a lot of shit that just needs to stop with this whole changing everything for the kids, because everything is now starting to become mainstream with the movies and the games and stuff like that. If you guys think that your whole, like, platform now is all based on just kids now, then there's definitely something wrong with you, because apparently you're not keeping towards your original audience that you made for whatever movie franchise or whatever for gaming franchise. Like, perfect example, which I know is going to be butthurt for Alex right now, but Devil May Cry. Devil May Cry started off as a great franchise series from 1 till 3, or even 4. I will allow 4 because 4 was like mixed emotions with some people, but I'll say 1 through 4 was an original Capcom good series that was, you know, straight dedicated to the fans. It kept it right straight up into original. And all of a sudden now, since they gave it to a new developer, which is called Ninja Theory, which is based in the UK, I don't want to get into that whole conflict though, but when they came out, they made it so it's way different in catering to the younger / westernized generation of today. And the whole series just went to a flop. That's just my opinion. The game has yet to be dropped, but that's just, you know, as an example. And the same thing with, you guys were talking about the whole RoboCop. That was before my time, so I really can't talk about it as much in depth. But the first RoboCop was very gory, very gruesome. It was funny, but it had action at the same time. And that's what we all grew up on. Then, as you say, oh, we have this new RoboCop and the RoboCop 3. It just started shifting off and it started like getting weaker and stupider and more kid-friendly and whatnot. They just have to just, you know, how can I put this? They just have to endorse the rating of whether of the game of rated M or rated R, or even make it like NR 17, yeah, NC 17. Like, endorse those ratings and be truthful to what you guys put out, so these kids won't have to sit there or be sneaking in or bullshitting about their age or whatever just to see a fucking a stupid ass movie or whatever. They should just keep it to the series. If it's meant for older, mature adults, keep it as so. If you're trying to make something for a whole new generation, just make a new IP or a new movie franchise for that. Don't ruin something that was great and build a great foundation for.
Right.
So.
Right.
Like, for instance, you see how Nickelodeon had their Star Wars, Clone Wars, 3D, whatever.
Yeah.
You don't see as much, like, people getting stabbed, like, freaking Star Wars, where Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn are fighting Darth Maul, and Obi-Wan gets stabbed, like, flash stabbed, and dies. You know what I mean? Leave that for the hardcore Star Wars fans, and then make the kid version. Separate it, so that people get what they want. But then again, it's like they don't want to put out the money to please everybody. It's like, we can give a fuck what you think. We're trying to make money. And guess what? What I'm learning to do when these companies do stuff like that, oh, you want to play like that? You're not getting my money no more. And I'm not the only one who thinks like this, because if franchises start pulling this stuff, they're going to lose followers. Like, for instance, another analogy, if you remember the Turtles movies, the trilogy, the first Turtles movie was the bomb. It was so real in the terms of, okay, you adapted it from the comic, okay, and it was dark, it was gritty, it was real. Like, if you saw a Ninja Turtle in the street, that would be Turtles 1. But then when you start, I would say Turtles 2 with Super Shredder and everything, trying to nod to the Konami arcade games and stuff. Shredder didn't even fight in there. You have Vanilla Ice, and it was kind of, it was kind of like on the fence. And then Turtles 3, when they try to do Turtles in Time and the samurai stuff. And did you see how the decline in quality from the first Turtles to the third one? It was the same thing like RoboCop. Then all came from parents complaining that the first Turtles movie was too violent. When did the Turtles go and stab anybody, kill anybody? I mean, like, really? This is what happens, because even now, the people who grew up with Ninja Turtles can still watch the first movie as an adult and still enjoy it. Same thing with the first RoboCop. And like with Nights Into the Dreams for the Sega Saturn that was re-released, it was kind of like blank. It was left to your interpretation. You didn't give Nights a voice. You didn't give Elliot or Clarice a voice. You can enjoy it for times to come. But when you put like the timestamp on it or age stamp on it, it's like you can enjoy up to a certain point and then move on. Because I'm not going to be seen around females watching certain things like, oh yeah, this is like kitty stuff. Like, what the, really? I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me get your final thoughts on that topic before we start to shut down this podcast. So, Lupe, you can go first, and then Nelson.
Really quick, like something Nelson said, create something new. Don't pimp out the old stuff. You know what I mean? You guys are a company. You're supposed to be the brightest minds. You put this together. You had some kind of dream or vision. Come up with something new. If you're gonna change the direction, change the character. Don't change someone who's originally, violent or themed towards adults and try to twist them and conform them to match the kids. Create something new. You know what I mean? Be creative. And even though I know it's about the money, it created right from the start. Like a franchise that has never changed, that's been around for, like you say, Star Wars. Look at Pokemon. Pokemon came out, catered to the kids, and they build and build and build, and they built a kingdom. They built a kingdom from Game Boy games all the way up to 3DS games because they did it right from the start. If you do it right from the start, you're not going to have to keep switching fan bases and try to appeal to this audience. Oh, crap, let's appeal to this audience. No, if you do it right from the start, you will establish the right kind of fan base you need, and they will always support you for your quality product. And lastly, this whole parents and the violence thing, look, I used to work at GameStop, okay? I don't buy this parent violence because I've seen 8, 9, 10-year-olds. Oh, yeah, do y'all have Grand Theft Auto IV? Don't even know what the number is. IV. I'm reading to the parent, oh, it has nudity, violence, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I don't care. It's in the video games you're buying them, but you don't want them to see the movie. And they can't get into the movie without someone of age anyway. So, Yeah.
Well, hold on, time out. I had to stop real quick, Nupe. So, parents are coming to you. You would give them the warning and the rating, and they said they didn't care?
Yeah, like if a child is buying a game, because first of all, you got to be 18 to buy certain games anyway. Yeah, I've had parents buy Saints Row 1, 2, and 3 for elementary kids.
The first Saints Row, dude, the first Saints Row is not for kids. Like, I don't know who in their right mind would buy Saints Row for anyone under the age of 14.
I've seen the zombie bikini slayers. I was in GameStop. This is when I wasn't working there. Some mom was buying it, and the guy behind the register was looking at me, and I'm laughing. He's like, "Ma'am, there is partial nudity in this game." The kid's like 8 years old. It doesn't matter. He plays it anyway. But you want to turn around and complain about the video games. These kids are getting this content because you are providing it for them. So
unbelievable. I can't, that comment just blew my mind. Like, they don't care. That goes to show you what type of parenting is going on in this generation. Things have changed. But that's something for Danae and Tough Nerd Toys to bring in, because that'll bring a different aspect onto the effects of, the audience with video games and stuff. But Nelson, what are your final thoughts before we log off?
Final thoughts as of like this whole movie / video game franchising with the whole kid and splitting it up. It's just too much. Like, as what Nupe was saying, like with this whole rating, like he even sat there and endorsed the rating. Like, look, we're giving you a game that's rated M. Your son or daughter is not as of legal age to be playing this game because it has certain content that may not be inappropriate. And people are sitting there shrugging it off like, oh, but my kid wants the game, don't worry about it, it's not a big deal. But then you're fucking being a hypocrite and coming out of nowhere out of your face and be like, oh, video games are bad for my kids, blah, 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 I don't know why you're selling it. Then why the hell are you sitting there ignoring the fucking rating that the store or the game associate or wherever the fuck you're getting it from and just buying the $40, $50, $60 games? I mean, honestly, that's just like the stupidest thing ever. And this is another thing that's going to get me mad. I went to the movies about like 2 years ago. I don't go no more though. But I say about like 2 years ago, I went to go see, what was it? The Transporter 3 or some shit like that, and that's a rated R movie. And mind you, that's over for 17 and up. I see fucking 5, 6, 7-year-old kids walking up in there, and this is not a lie, I'm not bullshitting you. They was like walking up in there, and they would go up to the ticket booth and say, oh, can I get a ticket to go see this movie? And they will let them slide, not even asking where's your parent, where's the consent of anything like that. They'll waltz right the fuck in. They'll give the ticket to the the lady or the guy who rips it up and tells you to go to whatever floor and shit like that, and they'll be done with it. So now this what makes me to believe is that it's more about the money than anything now. Like, age and everything is blown out the fucking water. It's all about the money now, yo. I'm telling you, it's just crazy.
So you know what? On a final note, you do know in other countries, like my country, things with alcohol, like they don't impose certain laws. Like, okay, in my country, you can start messing around with alcohol when you're like 14, but you don't have alcoholics. You know what I mean? So the minute you start putting all these laws and they put these laws in place, and people are gonna try and break them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If they kind of reassess how they're putting the restriction on the games, the movie ratings, and all that, you'll find that people won't make a big deal out of them. But then again, that's up to interpretation. But I've seen this in other countries outside of the United States. It's similar to that, like especially with alcohol and driving and things of that nature. Like, it's not such a big deal. But then again, I know the only other country that has issues with censorship is Europe. Like, they butchered Ninja Gaiden with the decapitation thing with the swallow attack. Like, really? Like, it's a game. Like, two more things before we log off. You know that Resident Evil 6 was blamed, or there was this whole thing saying that it's too violent and it's going to make people want to kill individuals. You're killing zombies or infected.
I read that article. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I mean,
they said, hold on. They said what?
Yeah, they're blaming Resident Evil for. They said that Resident Evil 6 is going to promote violence and people shooting and all that, but you're fighting zombies that literally transform into other beings, so it's like, what are you talking about? Not only that, here's what I predict for Metal Gear Rising. Next year, somebody's going to run around with a sword and start slashing somebody up, and then they're going to blame the game for that. You know what I mean? You can't. A game doesn't make you do something that you didn't want to originally do.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? So it's like maybe they get pumped up or something, but God forbid somebody runs around with a katana, thinks they're riding all of a sudden, and start chopping people up, thinking that there's a blade mode or something. But Nelson, if you wanted to expand on that Resident Evil thing, and then we could start logging.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, because I thought Nupe was about to say something.
Oh, no, I'm going to stab myself. Go ahead.
Oh, that's not a good thing. We're already promoting violence already on the stream.
I was playing the game. I almost stabbed myself.
Okay. Well, to expand that story real quick, I read an article. This was, of course, based in the UK. They was basically offended about the fact that some of their characters, not the iconic characters, not like Leon, not Chris, not Ada, none of that stuff like that, but we're talking about like the side characters within the game. They said that, it was way too similar to current events that has happened within the UK, where they had a guy murder someone within the exact same name and the exact same alias. So it's gotten to a whole nother level of bullshit and whatnot, and then it came to the point where Capcom had to come out and say, like, look, we don't make characters or video games pertaining to real life events. We don't sit there and mimic what's going on in the real world, so people could just sit there and like pounce on us and beat us with a stick and shit like that. But it's getting to a point where they're using every little excuse to try to get these video game companies shut down for any legitimate reason now. It can be for the fact that, what's that fucking game? No More Heroes, that when it came out for the Wii for the very first time, they promoted kids. I kid you no lie. They dead ass promoted kids to fucking whack off, because you're sitting there recharging your blade and you're going like this, and the little Wii character, like they show, how they have like a little stick figure character and they show you how to do the motion real slow and stuff like that. They actually sit there and have the guy hold two hands and stroke on the fucking Wiimote like you whacking off for the game.
Really?
I am so serious.
That was an adult content game too.
Yeah, and it was. But they was like, this game is too perverted, blah, 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 it's promoting this. But I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, hold on, but why are you talking about this game is perverted when the entire console and the company name is perverted in the sense? You're talking about a Nintendo Wii. You know what, like, Wii could be translated into many fucking different things. So
that's one of those names, like, go play with your Wii, or get the Wii out of here. Like, really? Like, I don't know.
So
all right, well, with that being said, this concludes our November podcast. Again, please send your prayers to Nelson and myself who are affected by the superstorm that hit us earlier this week. Unfortunately, yesterday I was in line for gas, and that's why we missed Target's schedule for every Thursday for the podcast. But if ever that happens, we'll always cover down one day during the week. So I've taken over some of the streaming responsibilities. So I put up Battle Fantasia, Skullgirls, and a couple other things. So stay tuned for that. Please subscribe and help Nelson and I get that partnership with Twitch TV so that we can really start making the funds to update the broadcast a little bit. And Nelson, any words and Nupe before we sign off?
I'll let Nupe go first.
On that last topic, the only thing I have to say is you're talking about Resident Evil, but which Modern Warfare was it where you actually pulled off a terrorist attack?
2. It was 2.
2. There's Modern Warfare. I think it was 2. You
it was 2.
Pull off a terrorist attack.
Yeah.
You're pulling off a terrorist attack. And the only thing that stops you says, warning, this scene may be too violent for children, blah, blah, blah. You may want them to skip.
You can skip it, yeah.
I mean, and you want to talk about based on real events, you want to bash Resident Evil, a zombie franchise game that's been out since what, the late 90s, versus something that is definitely based on what was currently happening in the world. And then you put someone in a position to execute a terrorist attack on innocent bystanders. I mean, come on.
Yeah, you got a point, man.
What you want to talk about, Resident?
You got a point on that, but the thing is, they don't even allow you to like lock that feature for kids, even if you you know how like Xbox has like that safety thing where you could limit your kids to doing certain things in the Xbox. You can't do that entirely when it comes to actual games, because within the content in itself on the disc, it basically just says, oh, blah, 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 warning, just hit yes or no. You're just basically endorsing the fact that, oh my god, there's something immature, I want to check this out, click. Oh shit! And they killing mad motherfuckers and shooting people and raping or whatever the game you playing. It's just.
I disagree with you though, Nelson. I disagree with you. You can block it. Parents, don't buy the freaking game for your kids.
Well, no, but I
pay attention. Sit down. You know what a lot of parents need to do? I did this one time. I sold a lady a game. I said, and I couldn't believe she was buying it for a kid. I said, do me a favor. He walked off. I said, do me a favor. I'm not trying to tell you how to be a parent. I said, sit down and watch him play this game. And she said, okay. She brought the game back the next day and said, thank you.
Damn.
No, but I understand what you're saying.
True.
I understand what you're saying, Nupe, but I'm saying like if they already have the game on hand, you can't lock it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there. There's no point locking the game. You bought it, it's yours. Here it is. But they're assuming that the person who has this game is supposed to have it. So.
But you know what? With the way the gaming industry is going, it's like you were saying about the movie theater thing, Nelson. It's about the money. Like if a kid can't buy that game, that's $60 they don't make.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just like cigarettes. It's just like alcohol. Like, they don't care how they're getting the money. If somebody's underage, they shouldn't be messing with it. If they get it, hey, I'm getting paid.
Yeah, they're endorsing it in many ways possible, man. Like I said, with these movies and video games, they do promote smoking and alcohol, and you'd be pretty surprised how many kids take effect into that, man. Just by even watching some of these kid cartoons on like Nickelodeon. The other day, my little cousin is sitting there watching SpongeBob. You know they're promoting smoking and alcohol in that fucking cartoon, right?
Really?
Yeah. What? There was an episode where SpongeBob was sitting there trying out how to smoke a cigarette underwater because, you know, this shit's unrealistic and whatnot. And all of a sudden, he became a shriveled up sponge when he smoked the cigarette. He started coughing and gassing and all this other stuff. And the next thing you know, I hear on the news, you have like these little 9-year-old kids stealing their parents' cigarettes and smoking up. I'm like, what's going on with this, though? Like,
but Nelson, I think what they were trying to do is teach a lesson and why not to smoke, and I think it got taken in a different direction.
Right,
you know what I mean?
but that's...
kids are too impressionable these days, you know, and that's kind of where, you know, they shouldn't have done it. Don't get me wrong,
right.
But that's.
But they shouldn't have had endorsed the fact that, like, why would you show it on TV if you know the new generation of kids now, they just do anything that they've just visually seen. It could not be, okay, it could be providing a statement like, all right, please don't smoke. They didn't even give no warning, no after credit show, like, oh, we don't promote whatever, stuff like that. They just threw it on the show because they think this shit is fucking funny. You know, if that's the case, do not show anything of that. You know?
This is true. And, you know, just to end things off, couple things. My generation growing up, when we were playing arcade games, you had that little government sign that says winners don't use drugs or whatnot. Then, with the old school He-Man cartoons and G.I. Joe and all that, at the end, they always gave you a lesson of the day. You know, treat each other with respect, da-da-da. Those times are gone, and we have to just accept the reality that this is it for gaming, for movies, and just things in general. It's just how it is. The best thing we can do is just talk about it, help inform people, and see what we can do to help make things better if we can. So that's all I got. If you have anything else, yes, no, maybe so.
The last thing I just gotta say is what Alex was saying earlier. Just please follow the Twitch and follow the YouTube channel to endorse our fan base a little bit more. We are trying to get partnership with Twitch TV because they have like certain bullshit requirements that we have to keep a concurrent amount of views over 400 plus, and we need more fan base, whether if it's mainly for the fighters, for the tournaments, or for anything that we endorse out. You know, we're trying to reach out to the fans to help us so we can give more back to you guys. That's mainly what we're trying to do. We're not trying to bullshit you with like some companies out there, which I will not mention. Y'all should already know already. But we're trying to give back to the community. We're trying to give back to the fans as much as possible. But we do need your help in order for us to get this accomplished. And we're trying to expand on the new collaboration that we got going called New Fighting Order with both nMo and Fighting Game League with the merge. So just please endorse us as much as possible.
All right. Well, with that being said, this concludes our podcast. We'll see you next time on the nFo Podcast Show. Peace.